Well, thanks for joining the session here on turbocharging your lead generation with digital marketing and for being part of the M&A conference. So glad you could join us. As I said, we are going to talk about lead generation, specifically how to do that for your sales, but also on the recruitment side. So a number of things have obviously changed in the last year, and that's actually increased opportunity for some to grow their team to help produce all of those goods and services that they have. So there's definitely a need both on the sales side and on the recruitment side. But first, we're going to start with a bit of a poll. We just want to get some feedback from you, just what kind of a role that you have within your company. So whether that's sales, marketing, HR, administration, operations, leadership. We just want to get a quick snapshot of who's attending today. So thank you for that. Take that, I believe it's in the upper right-hand part of your screen there that you can take that poll and give us that feedback. So really with digital marketing, there's a lot of different ways. There's different platforms and channels that you can use to reach out to new prospects or even recruits in an employment sense. But and there's almost an endless ways that you can do that, right? You see that every day. A new platform comes out and pops up, and it just seems like there's so many different ways to reach prospects and your audience. But really, we're going to boil that down to two major ways today. So we're going to talk about digital ads. We're going to buy an ad digitally somewhere to reach that consumer or that prospect or even that job applicant. And on the other side, we're going to talk about content marketing. And content is broad as well. Digital ads are generally short-term, so those are focused on generating leads today or in the very near future. That content piece, and we'll unpack that a little bit more as we go through the presentation, that is more of a long-term focus, especially if you're doing it well. It's going to take more time to build that system, but it's going to pay off over the long term much better because you're going to have this system that you built that's going to generate those leads over the long term, while the digital ad side of it, still important and a short-term benefit, but you're going to stop getting leads as soon as you stop paying for ads. So why does this matter? I'm going to give you some examples of a couple of clients that we've done this work for. On the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see a $300,000 contract that we were able to secure for a client based on content, on an article, a long article. This was like a 3,000 or 4,000 word article, believe it or not. So that was a direct result of that. That wasn't just us thinking, well, did our content generate that? We know for certain. And that's because digital is trackable if you set it up right. On the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see just another example where we used ads, that short-term thing that I mentioned before, where in the first year, we generated $100,000 of sales for a client. And that was just for the first year. This client has ongoing sales. So you can see the power of that over time as you build not just that first year revenue, but getting that recurring revenue, especially in a number of circumstances with clients. Now, I want to take a step back and get us to think about and reflect on a bit of 2020 and where we are. I know I have had to do this many times to really reflect and think. You see this dinosaur here, right? He has on his calendar, kill something and eat it on every single day of the week, and he's checking it off, right? How often are we doing that and not even realizing that we need to do something new or try a new strategy, be open to a new opportunity and new mindset, and so often we just get focused on doing the same things and we expect different results. Well, if we don't break out of that mindset and into something new and try different things, COVID really is what forced us to see that and really respond to that even more than we had before because we had to, right? There will be other crises in the future, and that's not to say things are going to be bad. I'm a very positive person, but there will always be some sort of challenge that the world is going through, or politics, or our industry, or our company. We have to think about continually changing more rapidly, because if we don't, we're not going to be able to sit and do things the way we did them before and expect to survive like we did in the pre-COVID world. So again, just an illustration here. I love the focus on the prehistoric dinosaur, right? Let's not allow our careers, our jobs, our companies to become like this dinosaur, where we realize, we wake up one day and we realize it's too late now. We should have changed. We should have made those changes in our business to keep up with digital transformation. All right, we'll get another poll to throw at you here. Just want to know how you're currently generating leads for sales. Obviously, that's changed quite a bit. Many in-person events haven't come back, as we can see with this one, right? We're still doing this virtually. I do believe that we will have some of them come back, but many of them are never going to go back, and they're going to stay virtual. So just curious how you're currently, what you're doing, and we've got some options there in the poll that you can select. All right, so what's one of the first things we do in a crisis, right? We tend to panic, or at least our initial thoughts are to panic. And I know many of us, myself included, had that challenge in 2020. That, oh crap moment, what are we going to do? And what is one of the first things that we reach for when we cut our budget? It's marketing. The problem is that's like being on a sinking ship and taking your engine and throwing it overboard. Why would we do that? Now, we obviously can't just continue to spend willy-nilly. We need to respond to the environment and what the market is saying and make sure that we don't spend frivolously. But don't we want to be in the position when our competitors are pulling back that we're moving into the marketplace and taking market share away from them? I think we do. It's always difficult and challenging to make an investment, especially in marketing, at a time where maybe things are uncertain or you may have lost some business. But that's exactly the time we need to double down. Now, that doesn't mean just spend money like drunken monkeys, but we need to be very strategic about that and move into the market so that we're better prepared as we come out of a crisis. And again, this isn't just about COVID. This is about the ever-changing environment that we're in and how we're going to respond to that, because things are moving faster. I think we can all sense that, right? With technology, just everything online. And I hate to say it, it's an opportunity really, but that trend is not going to reverse. It's only going to get faster. So how are we going to work within that new paradigm and use that as an opportunity to our advantage? All right, we got another poll here. Now we talked a little bit about sales. Want to know how much recruitment has changed for you. As I said before, sometimes people or organizations need to hire more or less. We're just interested in getting your feedback on that. All right. Perception, what we all perceive. I want you to think about how you perceive things and how other people perceive things. And consider whether our perspective is always somebody else's perspective. And to illustrate this, I'm going to use a story from my career. Early in my career, I worked for a company called Terminix. I was a bug killer, and I've got many crazy stories about different bugs that I don't have time to talk to you about today. But I do want to tell you a story about how I got the job. So you'll see here, gfunkdaddy@hotmail.com. That's a real email address, or it was. I don't know if somebody else owns it now, but I used to have that. And if you email that expecting to get me, you're probably going to get somebody else or nothing. So do that at your own risk. I thought I was being clever, and I thought it was cool. Again, it was early in my career. I was a little naive. But I used this on my job application and on my resume. I found out later that the only reason they actually interviewed me was because they wanted to see what I looked like. And as you can see, I'm the furthest thing from Snoop Dogg you can possibly imagine. The reason this is so important in marketing is that what we perceive as reality is often different than what our prospects and our customers perceive. And so we go out there and we talk about it on our website or in an email or a digital ad or article or something. And we're talking about it through our language and through our lens, what we care about and the products and services that we're trying to push, if you will. Flip that around. Why not look at it through the lens of what the prospect or what the applicant cares about and speak to that using emotional language, using things that draw them in rather than just try to broadcast and talk to them about who we are and why we're good. And certainly we need to sell our products and services, but flipping that around and making sure that the way things are perceived line up with what our prospects care about is the most important. I think we'd all agree to that, but it's challenging because we have our perspective, right, and what we're trying to push and our agenda or what we're trying to sell. And again, that's all valid, but I would just ask that we consider the other perspective and how they're going to perceive that and receive that. Let's talk specifically about recruitment and results that we've gotten from digital ads. So for a couple of clients, we were able to increase their applicant pool by 100, both companies, over 100. And this is qualified applicants. These are people who are either this type of, they're searching for this type of job, they already have this type of job. We're getting ads and content in front of a very specific audience. This isn't a broad audience. This is one that has a strong intent. So it wasn't that we just grew the applications by 100 or over 100 for each of those companies. Those were qualified, and that helped both of those companies fill positions very quickly and reduce that number of open jobs rapidly, which ultimately helped sales, right? Help them fulfill their orders, their products and services, and get that stuff through the pipeline faster. Here are just some visual examples of what that can look like for a couple of our clients. Again, speaking back to that emotional appeal, we tend to lead with, we got great pay and benefits and all of those things. The challenge is, what's in it for them? Why should they care? Because great pay and benefits, those are table stakes. What are the intangibles? What are the things about your culture that separate you from other organizations that you're competing with? And it's not always your direct competitors. If you're a manufacturer, right, it could be an indirect competitor. They're manufacturing something in a totally different industry, but you still have a need for welders or painters or something like that. So think about that in a broad sense of that competition. And when you really start to view that at that level, you'll realize that, wow, I really do need to do something to stand out and be set apart. And why do they really want to come to work for me? And use that in your ads. Speak to them. Speak to their reality, what they're perceiving, what's important to them. Another key point here is most of the time we spend in recruiting is on the passive or the active candidates, the people who are going to the job boards, they're looking for a job. They've said, yes, I know I need to make a change. They're going there. They're going to Indeed, your job board, other job boards. They're raising their hand that they are an active candidate. But that's the smallest pool of the overall pie. 70% of those are passive. They're happy with their job or maybe mostly happy, but they would be open to something different. So why do we spend 70% of our time on 30% of the candidates? And I'm not suggesting we totally flip that. We still need to go after the active ones. But let's give a little bit more time to those passive candidates and do some proactive outreach, very targeted to specific people in certain jobs in the area if you need to fill somebody locally. There's great opportunity there. Now, it takes time and effort, and we all are stretched thin with our time, but that's where the strategic part comes in. If you go with the shotgun approach, you'll probably get discouraged or overwhelmed with just how much work you have. Really laser focus in on whether it's the active or the passive candidates. Let's target people who are that specific fit that demographic or that psychographic, that type of person that has those skills but also is a cultural fit for our organization. Now we're going to shift from recruitment to sales. So with ads specifically, with a client here, we use that to generate $100,000 in first-year revenue. Again, this is the ads approach versus the content. And it absolutely is transforming this company from a traditionally focused on traditional sales, the person-to-person, to amplifying those efforts with their digital marketing. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out and stop doing sales efforts. Those are still very needed and valid, but we can leverage what digital has to amplify what the sales team's doing and even make it more efficient, as we'll talk about in a minute. One way to do this is through Google Ads, and we did this for this client using this approach. We're able to target a number of people who are searching for their specific products, and they have a lot of different products in different industries, so we have a lot of different targeting options, and put a message in front of them that resonates with them, the prospect, what they care about, what's in it for them. Now, don't get too hung up on any channel here. I say digital ads, it's very broad. We use Google Ads in this case for a very specific reason. It wasn't because we just love Google Ads. We took into account what their budget was, where their audience is, where are those people? And let's go to the channel that those people are already in, which it might be Google Ads for you. It might be Facebook ads, right? It might be LinkedIn ads. It might be a number of different types of digital ads. And there's different ways and different strategies and different reasons to approach those different audiences different ways. Now, I think all of us can relate to this comic here. We've got some spiders at the end of the slide. They've got this spider web out at the end, and they're trying to catch somebody coming down the slide. I mean, how preposterous is this, right? They're not going to catch anything, or they will, but it'll go right through. But how often do we try to catch the FANG clients, the Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google? I use that metaphorically. That may not be literally like that you're trying to go after Facebook as one of your clients or your prospects. But again, going back to that thinking differently and different mindset, maybe it is the size of company that you're going after. Maybe you are going after larger clients. That may or may not be a good fit for you. Are they the right partner for you? Do they treat you like a vendor? Maybe you need to look for different types of prospects. And the reason here I bring this up isn't to just say don't go after large clients or big clients, but is to get you think differently about not only where your prospects are, but what kind of prospects are a good fit for your company. Are they profitable? Do they treat you well? Do they have that partnership, or is it just a vendor and they just, treat you like they pay you and they own you and you're going to do whatever they ask you to do? Now, we're serving them, sure, but is there that partnership? So think more broadly than just who has the most money, because oftentimes it will transform your business if you focus in a different way than you've thought before. All right, so where is the safest place to hide a dead body? Does anybody know? It's the second page of Google. And why is that? Because nobody goes there. If you're on page 2 of Google, it doesn't matter. You might as well be on page 10 or page 50. Because nobody goes there. The opportunity we have, now I'm switching from ads to content here with Google, is immense. But it's a lot more competitive than it used to be. And using the strategies we used even 5 years ago is not going to cut it. Taking keywords and putting them on a page and hoping that that article ranks is very, very unlikely to work. And to illustrate that, the top 3 results on page 1 of Google get 75% of the clicks. So going back to my joke about being on the second page of Google, Not only do you need to be on the first, you need to not be on the second page, you need to be on the first page, but you need to be in the top 3 results. You say, Miles, well, how am I ever going to do that? It sounds more complex, more competitive than it's ever been before. And that's true. But there is an opportunity to be a lot more strategic with that content, laser focused in on the topics that your prospect has pain points, things that they care about, that they're frustrating to them. We're not even selling a product or service at this point. We're solving that pain point for them. And then we're going to introduce them to our product or service down the line after we've solved that. More people, there's such a thing as ad blindness. People don't want to see ads. Now, it doesn't mean that digital ads don't have their place. As I mentioned, they're a short-term strategy that should be placed alongside a long-term strategy like content. Whether it's ad blindness, meaning people, they don't see the ads anymore, right? They just skip over them, or they have ad blockers. The trend is towards delivering value without asking for the sale, which is where content comes in. And there is an incredible opportunity to do this with Google if you have some strategy, you have the results to back it up, and you know how to do this. And while it is competitive, we can focus on places that it's less competitive for your industry. We can be really strategic and increase the timeline that it takes to have these results, even though they are longer term. If you move up in the search rankings by just one position, that increases your click-through rate by 30%. Click-through rate is simply just something that it increases the likelihood that somebody is going to click on your result versus somebody else's result. And why is that important? If you can get your article right, maybe it's on page 2, you need to get it to page 1, continue to work on it. That might be improving the article, doing some other off-page SEO work where we're building links to those articles, which link building is very important to do to launch an article to make sure Google can actually know that it's there and it's getting some engagement from other reputable sites, and then move it up in the rankings. Get it, and it's not just rankings too. So a lot of people that you may run into that talk SEO and content, it's all about rankings, right? But going back to what I said about being on the second page of Google, rankings don't matter until traffic happens. And traffic doesn't happen until you get on page 1. And then even from there, you get traffic, right? You get people from SEO from Google to show up on your articles, but then 80+% of those people leave. What are we doing to capture them? So now that we've built that system of getting them from Google into your article, what are we doing to get them to stay? And one way to do that is using marketing automation, email marketing, where we're getting them to subscribe to your email list. And that's not just a box on your website that says, put your email here to subscribe to our email list. It's much more than that, and I'll talk more about that in a second. So I know the SEO traffic thing is probably for most of you something you're like, I can never do that. That just seems crazy or seems unattainable. Here are just a couple of examples that we have for clients that we've successfully done. And you can see one has a more average trend line, and the other one is more of a hockey stick approach. And both apply. Both, again, SEO and content is something you need to invest in the long term. But it pays off in much bigger dividends because when looked at over the long term, you're building this system, this flywheel of SEO traffic coming from Google into your article, getting them onto your email list, and then you're going to nurture them with automated emails with more content, with a few offers sprinkled in here and there. But it is absolutely worth it because over the long term, content and SEO and email marketing have a much bigger ROI than digital ads. The challenge is you just have to get over that hump, that initial investment, and the time it takes to build that foundation. Here's some specific results. Almost over 400% growth for one company in organic traffic from Google. This is not rankings. This is actual traffic. This is getting people off of Google to come to the company's articles. And as I said before, with one client, we have a direct link from that content that we created to a $300,000 contract that they were able to sign with a prospect. Another client had over 1,300% growth in organic search traffic. And as I teased a minute ago, it's not just about getting Google traffic. What are we doing with that? We need to get them to our email list. And in one case, we more than doubled their email list. These are qualified people. These are people that are coming in on a topic that is their pain point. And it's related to our products and services that we're trying to sell as a company, yes, but it's related to their pain point, and we're helping solve that with an article. So this is the formula for content, SEO, email marketing success. And it is the best way, I rarely say that, but it is the best way over the long term to consistently generate leads. If you can, and we have had a lot of experience doing this for a number of clients, getting people to come in from Google on an article, getting them to sign up for your email newsletter. It's not just a subscribe for our email newsletter, it's offering something additional of value. You've already created this article here that you've given away for free. Now you're giving them an ebook, 26 ways to do blah, 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 or whatever that particular article that's relevant to them, offering that as an ebook as an enticement. And the reason why is because email is currency these days. It's no longer good enough to just say, sign up and we'll give you our discounts or information. People don't want to do that. They get lots of email. And email is very effective, but only if you use it strategically. So taking those people, getting them coming in from Google to your articles, getting them to sign up for an ebook, and then not just placing them on your email list, that's one step. The next step is then setting up an automated series of emails, not your monthly newsletter, not the other types of marketing emails that you're going to be sending, which you should do too, but then based on the article they came in on, then the ebook that they signed up for, then they get an email. Maybe it's once a week for 4, 6, 10 weeks, depends on the situation and how much content you have. But then you're sending them that content every week. You may sprinkle in a product or service offering every so often, but you're still leading with content. We're still trying to earn their trust. And the thing it does for your salespeople, especially if you're in a B2B sense, then your salespeople can look at all those contexts and see the scores, the lead score for each of those people that signed up. Then they can have a direct conversation, whether it's phone call or just a manual email one-on-one, with just the people who have responded the most, who have the highest score in those leads. So then it's an opportunity to amplify what your sales team is doing and make them more efficient and focused on talking to the most interested and most likely to convert customers. So now I'm going to bring this back to the prehistoric dinosaur. Too often, myself included, we find ourselves in this same pattern. And every so often, we've got to break ourselves out of that mindset and be open enough to other people's new ideas, new strategies. And that's never been more important than today. If anything, COVID accelerated a lot of what was already in progress with the digital transformation in our lives. And that's only going to continue to grow. And unless we want to become a prehistoric dinosaur, and it's up to us to make that choice, we have to adapt. We have to make those changes. We have to move things forward. And digital marketing gives us great opportunity. Yes, there's lots of options, and yes, it can be overwhelming to know what to do and when and how to spend your money. That's all very true, but it is worth pushing through all of that, figuring it out, having other people help you to get to the place where your job, your career, your company continues to succeed and thrive for many, many years to come. I look forward to you joining me later for the Q&A session that we have, and I hope you're enjoying the conference and got something out of the presentation. Have a great rest of your day.